Ready or Not is best played with a team. Taking on dangerous criminals is best done with your friends. But playing solo in Ready or Not is an option. It's certainly a difficult experience, but not impossible. I play Ready or Not solo quite a bit. So today, I'm going to share with you some tips on how I play Ready or Not alone. Before we begin, we should identify why having a team with you is so important. As one person, you can only be generally aware of what's in front of you. No matter how perceptive you are, you don't have eyes in the back of your head. This is where teammates come in. Teammates will help you watch areas you can't physically see. This greatly reduces the risk of a threat successfully flanking your position. This way, once you've cleared an area, a teammate can hold it down and deal with anyone that enters. Teammates also bring gear. Whether it's flashbangs, shields, or breaching equipment, teammates bring more options to handle a greater variety of scenarios. Of course, as a solo player, you won't have that support. A lot of solo play in Ready or Not revolves around compromises and making the best decision among a myriad of bad choices. And one final note, Ready or Not is a realistic game, and many of the techniques we will talk about are borrowed or adapted from real-life tactics. However, Ready or Not is still a game. There will be some tips that aren't realistic, but are effective in the game. So, let's begin.
Hands up, above your head.
As usual, we start with the loadout. Choose your primary weapon of choice, and pack ammo accordingly with the map you're going on. Remember, you don't have teammates, so you'll need to make sure your loadout is as well-rounded as possible. I would recommend bringing fewer mags to accommodate more gear. For your secondary, I would recommend the sidearm of your choice. As a solo player, pulling out a taser takes too long, and if an armed suspect draws a gun while you have your taser out, it's going to take too long to switch back to your primary and deal with the threat. Your tactical equipment is going to depend on your playstyle. If you like having more movement speed, and like having the ability to breach doors at distance, the breaching shotgun is for you. If you want something to stop some rounds that you can wear on your back, you can bring the shield. Personally, I prefer the shield. For armor, I would recommend ceramic plates. Steel does provide more protection, but it's just too slow. Your character moves significantly faster with ceramic plates, which becomes very useful when making entry into a room. Bring lots of flashbangs. These are going to be very useful, especially when clearing areas with multiple hostiles. For your tactical slot, I would recommend taking a door wedge. They are very useful, especially in solo runs. Blocking off flanking routes is going to save your life more than you might think. And for your headwear, I would recommend a ballistic face mask, unless you need night vision. There are a lot of tips and techniques that I'm going to go through, but they're all predicated on one principle. Clear rooms as much as possible without entering the room itself. And do it as slowly and methodically as possible. When talking about CQB, it's easy to want to emulate high-speed operators who clear rooms at breakneck speed. But the reality is, most of us aren't Navy SEALs who train CQB every day. Additionally, we're playing as cops, not soldiers. There are going to be civilians, and you need to ensure you don't shoot them. You are accountable for every round you fire. For these reasons, we are going to be slow and minimize as much risk as possible to ourselves and the civilians around us. As a solo player, you are going to have to compromise. Take the first area of this house. We have one door on the right, an opening on the left, and a small kitchen on the right obstructed by cover. Which do we clear first? If we are following textbook CQB rules, we should clear the room to the right. But this approach is based on the idea that a team would hold down the other two uncleared areas while you clear the room. Without a team, we have to approach it differently. This is where your equipment can come in handy. If you have a door wedge, you can use it to block a door to ensure no one will come through. When you're ready to clear the room, you can remove the door wedge and get to work. For example, if you hear something from the left side, you might be able to jam the door on the right, then clear the left side. This protects you from being flanked from the right side, and allows you to clear without worrying about being shot in the back. As a solo player clearing this house, this would be the option I would take. This approach isn't exactly safe without teammates, because you can easily be attacked while placing the door wedge. Making these decisions as a solo player is an exercise in compromise. Weigh your options and choose the one with the least downsides. Now that we've decided where to go, let's talk about doors. We'll start with closed doors. When we approach a door, we are going to approach from an angle. Doors are referred to as fatal funnels for a reason. If someone were to start shooting through the door, or an armed suspect were to suddenly open the door, we don't want to be in the line of fire. If we can, we'll approach opposite from the door handle side. This allows us to peek, or open the door slightly. There are a couple reasons to do this. 1. You can start clearing through this small opening, without exposing your body in the doorway. Without entering the room, and even opening the door completely, you can clear a significant portion of the room. 2. If you know there are hostiles, this crack is just big enough to toss in flashbangs, allowing you to do so without fully exposing yourself. Whether you choose to throw a flashbang or not, the next step will be to start clearing. Move as far back from the door as possible and start scanning. An important note: only scan as fast as you can process. Moving back ensures that we aren't unnecessarily exposing ourselves or our weapon through the door. Once we have as much distance as possible, we begin the actual clearing. Many of you probably know of the pieing concept, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. For those who don't know, we are going to treat the corner as the center of our pie. As we move, we are going to isolate sections of the room, or slices of our pie. Check each slice of pie carefully, using your flashlight if you need to. Once you're satisfied that it's clear, move on to the next slice. Continue doing this until you've finished the pie. An important note: do not jiggle peek. In many shooters, it can be an effective strategy to jiggle peek to bait a shot and figure out where your enemies are. This is not one of those games. When you clear a section of the pie, it becomes your responsibility to hold. If an armed suspect rushes in, you need to be able to respond immediately, even if it means taking some hits. This is a universal approach that can be applied to almost every map in Ready or Not. It lets you approach most situations as safely as possible, and allows you to adjust your speed as quickly or slowly as you like. There is no requirement to be super fast when slicing the pie. Of course, this isn't the only way to breach a room. Sometimes, you'll need to make a fast dynamic entry. This usually arises when you know there's a threat in the room and need to respond immediately. In this situation, your response is very simple. Open the door, rush in, and shoot until the threat is stopped. And sometimes, if you know there's someone behind the door, you can kick the door and stun that person. I wouldn't do this very often, since you don't know if there are other potential threats in the room, but it is an option to stun and arrest someone. So, to recap, we should take things as slow as possible, until you can't. Choose where you clear based on where threats most likely are. Clear each room as much as possible from outside, then move in to clear the rest of the room. Sometimes, you'll be caught in a gunfight while moving. In this case, the main strategy isn't very different from most other games. Get to cover as fast as you can, and shoot back. Do your best not to repeat the same corner twice. But given how small some of these maps can be, it's not always possible. If you have to re-peek, try crouching, so you don't peek in exactly the same spot twice. Soloing ready or not isn't an easy task, nor is it the optimal way to play. But if you're looking for a fun challenge, playing this game solo is very entertaining.